selling haunted dolls is not a new trend, but it's becoming a little bit more popular. I want to talk about what's really going on here and what you really should do about it. Haunted dolls are becoming very popular. They are selling all over online. And today I want to talk about the three different situations you're going to run into if you consider purchasing a haunted doll or a haunted object. Also, I want to talk about what do you do about that in each of these situations that you come across, these three scenarios, what's happening and what can you do about it. The first scenario, I'm going to jump right into this one. Right in here we go. The first one, very simple. We can get this one out of the way right out of the gate. The first scenario is that you purchase a haunted object or you come across a haunted object and it is not haunted. It's not haunted. If someone is online selling something and they mark it haunted, it does not mean it is. It does not mean it is spiritually affected in any way, shape, or form. And this is quite common with the dolls that are being sold online. You get a doll that has clothes that are all disheveled and it's chipped and maybe its head's tilted a little bit. You got one eye open, one eye closed, and somebody writes the word haunted on it and it looks haunted like you'd see in a pop culture movie. Doesn't mean it's haunted. Doesn't mean it is. What it does mean is that it looks like it might be. Somebody made either the assumption it is, or they didn't even bother making the assumption. They just said, hey, it looks like it. Somebody's going to buy it. Here we go. And they put it online. That's out there. I wanted to get it over with. I wanted to just cover that one right out of the gate because while we would love to think that everyone is honest out there with what they're doing, is selling online, it's not the case. It's not the case. There could even be a pristine looking doll that as long as it's got a good backstory, right? Well, that's got to be haunted. No, no, it's not necessarily haunted. So keep that in mind. I would even venture to say the majority of haunted objects out there for sale are not, are not. Fun to buy, interesting curiosities, but in the end, there's really nothing energetic going on with any of them. So I said, we're going to figure out what to do with each of these scenarios, right? What do you do with this scenario? Don't buy it. Let's just start with that. Just don't buy it. Tap in, see, use your intuition. This is why I'm so big on teaching people how to tap into their intuition. This is why I teach the Sage method. This is why I have the spiritual community, the Sage Circle. This is why I do all of this, because I really want to empower people to have their own, radio that they can tune into to say, okay, I came across this online. I'm going to sit with this intuitively and see, is it really haunted or isn't it? And if it isn't, close your wallet, get out of that browser, go to a different thing, go look for something else, skip over it. That's your first scenario. All right, let's go to the second scenario. I'm actually going to kind of do the second and the third scenario at the same time, but I want to talk about the differences because the second scenario could be that the haunted object is haunted energetically, not necessarily by a spirit, but just by energy. And then the third scenario is that it is haunted and there is a spirit attached to that object. So, for the second situation, being energetically charged, you can have an object that is energetically charged, labeled as haunted, sold that way, or you come across it. It can happen. You can come across it in your day-to-day life as well. But if we think about this, right? Let's take the spooky out of the concept of haunted and acknowledge that we have stuff like this around us all the time. We talk about in spiritual circles and spiritual groups, we talk about talisman, charging stones, charging. I have readers, I have a set of beads that are my reader beads, and I hold those beads every time I do an intuitive reading. They hold a very high vibration for me. They are my talisman. They're kind of my go-to. I can read without them, but they feel really good to read with them. So we can, with our intent, infuse objects with positive energy, with healing energy, with high vibrational energy, with, all different types of wonderful positive things. And we talk about this in the terms of having a talisman, right? Now, these haunted objects, love that pop culture term haunted, but these haunted objects are the exact same thing. It's just the energy that is in the object, the intent is not so great. The intent is a lower vibration. The energy is more sort of in the category of havoc or stress or trouble or heaviness, sadness, depression, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So just as one person can infuse an object with healing energy or with loving energy or growth, energy, whatever intent you can set into a talisman in a positive way, you have the same ability to set negative intent into an object. So you could have someone who had an object and set the intent of the energy to be put into that object that is a negative energy. We then purchase that object or come across that object and we feel the energy. This is really important to talk about too, because when you bring one of these objects into your energetic space, it's going to affect you, especially if you're welcoming it in, especially if you opened the wallet and purchased it and brought it home, and now your energy is going to mix with that energy. So, yeah, some people can use a lot of different terms around this. You can talk about an object that's cursed, an object that is cursed with negative energy. That's one way to express it. You could just simply say, a negative talisman, right? There's a lot of different ways to say this. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to take the spook factor out of it a little bit here and get really real about it. You can set any intent into any object that you choose. Now, with that said, if somebody sets negative intent into an object, I'm going to tell you right now, that person who sent the negative intent into the object, that negative energy started within them first, then went into the object. So individuals that put negative energy into other objects will forever carry a piece of that negative energy within themselves because they generated it. They generated it. When I hear someone say, "Oh, the dark arts or the dark mystical stuff," and "Oh, I'm gonna curse someone or I'm gonna cast a negative spell," I stop them very quickly and say, Here's something you need to know. Everything that you generate to put into something else, you generate within yourself first. So if you wish bad onto someone else, that bad is also going to affect you. So I tell people, keep that in mind before you start going down that really fun, spooky, road of casting negativity out there into the world. Anything you put out in the world starts within you. If you're putting good into the world, you're putting good into yourself. Putting love into the world, you're putting love into yourself. You put hate into the world, you are putting hate into yourself. And those that cast that negative energy actually hold a lot of that within themselves and then wonder why they struggle themselves. So putting energy into another object, it does start within the individual that's putting it in there, and it does work to go into another object. Also, another way that an object can be filled with a negative energy is not necessarily intent, but being in a negative vibrational area for a period of time. If there is an object that has been in an area where there was great suffering or great struggle, that object can pick up that energy and bring it forward wherever that object goes. What do we do with this? What do we do with this? When you come across an object that is, quote, haunted, and it's energy, not a person, but it's energy, you'll feel like there's a cloud within it or around it. If you sit, GCP, always please, ground clear protect. But if you sit and relax into it and tap in, you're going to feel either sort of a cloud-like feeling around this, or as if something is being emitted, like coming from the inside of the object out. You're going to feel something of that sort. It's going to feel different than if there's a spirit in the object, which we're going to talk about next. But This is some of the feelings that you're going to feel if the object itself is holding negative energy. What do you do with this? You can make it as simple as possible. Please know that energy work doesn't have to be complicated. We don't have to overcomplicate things. That's our human brain on linear time. This can be as simple as wrapping it in white light and asking for the universe to transmute the negative energy into positive. You can pull it, you can imagine the negative energy being pulled out of the object, again, turning from negative to positive as it goes off, either to Mother Earth or back up to source. Go with what feels right to you. If you have guide communication, absolutely use that guide communication for tools and what do I do with this situation. But your intent is powerful. Here's another thing, because I can feel that question bubbling up. The intent that you have to clear an object, your positive, loving intent to remove negative energy and have it turn to positive, is 5,000 times stronger than anyone's negative intent that was infused into that energy, or any negative energy that has been residing in that object for a long time. Negative energy is weak. Negative energy is fragile. Negative energy, the energy itself, is hollow. It's very hollow. And positive energy is tremendous and powerful compared to negative energy. So when it comes to shifting it, it's going to be very easy. Step into it knowing, oh, this is going to be easy. I'm going to sweep it out, or I'm going to bubble it up, or I'm going to wrap it up, whatever you're led to do. But shift the energy of that object from negative to positive. Why are we doing this? This is the solution we're talking about for number 2 here. But why are we doing this? Because everyone that comes into contact with that object is going to be affected in a negative way. And we don't want that. We don't want that. It's not a good purpose. It's just not a good reason for an object to hold energy like that. Now, your third situation, which is very similar to your second situation, you're going to come across a doll or a coin or a box or an object that has an actual attachment. There is a spirit attached. When you come across this, the spirit is stuck in the in-between, guaranteed, because any object that has a negative vibration and has a spirit attached to it, that spirit is going to be someone, a person, as we know, that is stuck in the in-between. Now, there is a positive version of this as well. Just like with the second example, positive talismans, there's a positive version of this as well. Perhaps you have an object of someone who you have lost, they've crossed over to the other side. Great love for them. They had great love for you. Perhaps you have one of their personal objects and you can feel their energy in it. They are indeed connected to that. And the more attention you put to that object, the more you're going to be able to connect directly with their energy. My grandmother, for example, I have her ring, and that ring is almost like a direct line to her. She is connected to that ring, and that ring does hold her energy. So there's a positive to this. You can have a spirit who has crossed over be attached to an object in a very positive, loving way, and you can connect with that object here on Earth. But the negative aspect of this, which is what we're focused on today, because we got the spooky, spooky haunted dolls, right? The negative aspect of this is that if someone in the in-between who has passed but is trying to transition gets stuck in the in-between, they can attach to an object. There's a lot of different reasons for this. Maybe the object is somewhere that they, were, and they connected to the object. It brought them comfort. That's typically why someone in the in-between is going to connect to an object in this agreed upon reality, a material object. Somehow it brings them comfort. Worst case scenario, you have a living individual that has worked with their intent to connect a spirit who's in the in-between to a physical object. Not a good day. Not my favorite. If you've been watching these series or listening to these series, the very first episode I ever did talks about an asylum that I went to clear. It was an old asylum, obviously shut down for years and years. Someone had purchased it, and the medium on staff had actually set the intent to hold stuck spirits in that location in order for ghost hunting teams to come in and have experiences. And yep, they sold tickets for it. And what I call that is a human zoo. Spirits that are crossing over and are stuck are still people. They are people. They are someone's son, someone's daughter, someone's loved one, someone's parent. And somebody stuck in the in between, whether they're a nice person or they weren't a nice person in life, it doesn't matter. They are a soul created of unconditional love. They deserve to go home. So when you come across locations that are advertised as haunted, buy a ticket, experience a ghost, that's a human zoo. And if you're interested, that first episode, if you haven't listened to it, you really should take a minute to listen to it because it's a very important episode. But in this scenario, by attaching a spirit in the in between to a physical object, you're also limiting that spirit. You're pulling them away from their transition process and connecting them to a physical object. Is this possible? Yes. Living people in the agreed upon reality have stronger intent than those transitioning in the in between. And it's our job to take care of them, to love them, to support them, to help them in their transition. Not everyone does that. Some people think, ooh, how cool would this be to attach a spirit to this doll and sell it for $49.95? Yes, it's possible. And also, it can be possible that a spirit in the in between willingly comes across an object and attaches to it. Something we need to remember in the in between and the crossing over process is that if someone passes, goes through the in between, they get stuck. They're going to look for a way to soothe themselves. And it's very psychological in the in between. It's a very natural process to want to try to soothe themselves. A mother might hang around her children. That's going to bring her comfort. But occasionally you'll have somebody that was a negative human being. They were mean to others. They were hurtful. They were harmful. They were a perpetrator of some sort. They pass, they go into the in between. They don't want to cross over out of fear. Instead, they're going to turn around and find a way to soothe themselves. When they do this, and you have a living person at the same time saying, oh, this doll is haunted and is a doll that is going to cause all of these negative, spooky, scary scenarios, that individual who's looking to soothe themselves through perhaps affecting somebody negatively might indeed step up to the plate to attach to the doll, knowing they're going to be brought into another person's home, and then they're going to be able to negatively affect the people in that house. So keep in mind, it is possible for an object to be haunted. In this last scenario, it's both equally possible for an object to be connected to a spiritual guide or a loved one on the other side, as it is for an object to be connected to somebody who's negative or struggling, stuck in the in between. And if you come across that, you know what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to cross that spirit over 2 steps with the object in front of you, long distance or in front of you. Picture the object and the spirit separating apart from each other, right? Kind of pulling away that anchor that the spirit has on the physical object. Once that's done, then go about helping that spirit to cross over, wrapping them in unconditional love, asking for guides to support them in their journey, and assist that spirit in crossing over. Negative, positive, doesn't matter. If they're in the in between, they need to cross. So if you come across a spirit attached to a physical object like a doll or a coin or something like that, and they are stuck in the in between, it's really your responsibility to help them cross over. If it's a positive spirit who has already been crossed over, they're on the other side, this is just a talisman, an object that connects you directly to that loved one on the other side. They don't necessarily need assistance. They're just connecting with you through an object. So all is possible, but in summary, if you come across a haunted doll, first off, tap in and see if it even is anyway, because most of them aren't going to be. It's just, like I said, $49.95. But wait, there's more. It's on sale for 20% off this week. It's going to happen, unfortunately. But if you do come across one and you tap in and you can feel something, feel if it's either energetic or if it's a spirit that's attached to it, stuck in the in between spirit that's attached to it. If it's energetic, clear it. If it's spirit, help them cross over and make that difference. Now, there is one scenario that I can understand and relate to that would be a positive reason to maybe not clear something right away. And that's in the case of a ghost hunting team, if they or an investigator of some sort. If they're going to investigate or tap in or look for evidence or anything like that, I completely understand that. And I don't judge that. I completely understand it. I'm just going to ask that once you're done, to please clear that object. That's it. That's all I'm going to ask. Because, especially if it happens to be a spirit, because if their spirit is attached, they're attached trying to soothe themselves, which means that they're trying to soothe themselves from pain and suffering and emotional struggle, which means it's better to help them cross over to relieve permanently that horrible a mental struggle being stuck than it is to let them stay connected to that object. That's really important too. You know that. These ghosts are people too.